When we analyze migration in Europe or in the United States, we have two groups or two different thinking. The one, the leftist, the socialist, the progressive one that would like to have borders open, and the conservative one that would prefer border closed and a more strict control on migrants. But what are, of the two different perspectives, the most correct? What is the most correct? So in this video, we analyze two aspects. The first one, the economical one, and the second one, the security, or the one related to crime rate. We take a study made in Denmark about the situation in that country. So, from an economical point of view, we have to take a few considerations. The first one is that the Western society has a very low fertility rate, so the demographic structure, due to the aging process of the Western population, is changing dramatically, which means that it could jeopardize the pension systems as well as the labor force. For that reason, if for both point of view, the leftist one and the right-wing one, it's important to arrive to some pragmatic decision about immigration. So these decisions should be related in how to integrate migrants and how to find the right work and the right opportunities for migrants. For the simple reason that because of the aging of the population, the workforce should be replaced with new arrivals. That's the truth, the situation that the Western world is facing at the moment. Unfortunately, the leftist point of view doesn't take in consideration the second aspect of migration, which is the security. What does it mean migration for Europe and what does it mean migration for United States? And we will see that in comparing the two reality, it is a more problematic Europe, it is in a more problematic situation than United States. And at the end, I will explain you why Europe is in worse shape than United States. But first, let's analyze. When we analyze the study about the economy, we see that in the case of Denmark, the new arrived are contributing less, this is the first graph, are contributing less in comparison with a Western country or the native one. The reason is very, very simple to understand. That is because usually the jobs that can apply immigrants pay less than the jobs that in which are involved the native one or the Western immigrant. So that's very easy, and in few generations, just in the next generation, most probably this situation will change dramatically. But when we go to security, there the situation is much more complex. I repeat, this study is referred to Denmark. There are this statistic, it would be available in most of the European countries, but you don't find this number because the government doesn't want to share the real numbers with its citizens. So when we analyze the crime rate, we see that we have few considerations to take into account. And these considerations are related to the number of crimes in comparison with the statistic universe of the one that commit the crime. For example, in the particular case of Denmark, you will see that the Western immigrants account for 5% of the population, but just 3.8% of the nation's violent crimes. Non-Western immigrant and descendant account for 9% of the population and 25% of the nation violent crime convictions. So, as you can see, we have the native one and the Western immigrant that have, in proportion, related to their statistical universe, to the number of people of this community, less crime in comparison with the immigrants. And the difference is quite significant to this other graph. Another important characteristic that we can see is the conviction rate between 2010 and 2021. We see that the people of Danish origin and Western immigrant have a very low conviction rate. And at the opposite, the people that are non-Western immigrants, and this is referred to Denmark. But there are some conclusions, as I said at the beginning, that can be extrapolated, extended also to the United States. I will explain you why. So we can see that the conviction rate of non-Western immigrant could be at least 3.5% higher than the Western one or the native one, which means that they tend to commit, the immigrants, more criminal acts. So, especially, and if we, the analysis, it's focused to 3 different kind of crimes. The first one is violent crimes. The second one, homicide, which is very low in Denmark. And the third one is referred to the risk of women. It is referred to rape conviction. So when we analyze the rape conviction, we have to remember also the fact of Colonia. Colonia is a German city, and when it received in 2000, if I don't remember bad, 2017, a huge migration from Syrian refugees, by the feast of year end, the rape in the city of Colonia, the rapes skyrocketed. There were dozens of women raped during the holiday, the Christmas holiday in Colonia. There are even cases where leftist or progressist women or liberal, if we define in the American English way, doesn't denounce the case of rape because they don't want to stigmatize the immigrants. But that's the situation that happened in Colonia, and it is the situation that is recorded in Denmark, as you can see from this statistic. So, yes, unfortunately, the conviction rate of migrants, especially non-Western migrant, is much higher, significantly higher, and especially for rape, than the other ethnicity that have been studied. And in this last graph, we see the violent crime rate by nation of origin. And we see that at the top of the crime statistic, we have people from Kuwait, then people from Tunisia, Lebanon, Somalia, Jordan, Uganda. The one that commit less crime are the Japanese one that have 0 crime rate. But all other Western countries that have migrated to Denmark have, compared with the non-Western migrants, a very, very low conviction rate. What does it mean that? That is because mainly of the culture. And as you can see, these non-Western migrants come from countries that have very strong patriarchal society. That means that the role of women is, in their mind, in their society, it is minimized. It is not as important as the men, because they are very patriarchal society, and the way they treat women for their religion and the way, or not only the religion, but also their cultures, are particularly harsh. And that is explained also by the rate of rape that these migrants represent, for example, in Denmark. So this Danish study could be extended to the rest of Europe. So what are the conclusions for Europe and from the United States that we can take from this study? First of all, we have to recognize, unfortunately, that it is extremely difficult to integrate these migrants to the values of the Western Christian society. It's very difficult. They come mainly from Muslim countries. In many of these countries, the law is the Sharia law. Is a religion law that is extremely strict and extremely limiting of the freedom and of the role of women in the society. So it's very difficult to integrate these migrants. And it shows also the incapability of Europe to manage an effective integration. But what should be and what could be the integration? Well, the integration should transmit the Western values, the Western Christian values to these people. At the opposite, these people come to Europe where their beliefs, cultural beliefs, religious beliefs, and they want to impose their beliefs to the rest, the society in the country that are hosting them. And this is causing a clash of culture between the Judaico-Christians, that are the values represented in Europe, and the values of the migrants. The situation is very complex, and I honestly don't see the capability of the European governments to deal with this situation. Probably, little by little, the Western culture is losing ground against the new culture that are arriving to Europe. When we compare the situation with the United States, in the United States we see a completely opposite situation. Why? Because most of the migrants come from Latin American countries, and their culture are more similar to the one that is present in the United States. For example, in the Latin American country, there are the same religions that are present in the United States. So or that are dominant in the United States culture. So the integration is usually easier, and finally there are less problems of this kind in comparison with Europe. The situation in Europe at the opposite is, in my opinion, if you allow me that term, almost lost. I hope that I have interested you with this presentation. I'm looking forward to have you in my next one. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends if you like it, and turn on the ringing bell to see when I have a new video on my channel. Thank you.